Hi guys, it's Jacob and you're on my new channel, More Jacob. Today we're going to have episode 2 of Politics and News with Jacob. I'm here again with my grandmother. We have some good news stories and we're going to talk about them today. So, let's start things off with the ever so wonderful Mr. Comb-Over-in-Chief. Do you know who we're talking about?
No.
We're talking about Dump the Trump.
Oh, okay.
Donny Boy.
Okay.
So, he's in the news right now because he's talking about the debates and how the DNC or something must have rigged the debate schedule. So let me give you the current debate schedule right now. So the debates are scheduled to be 9 to 10:30 p.m. In New York on September 26th, which is a Monday, which would be the first presidential debate. In Virginia on Tuesday, October 4th, which is the vice presidential debate. In Missouri on Sunday, October 9th, which would be the second presidential debate, and in Nevada on October 19th, which is a Wednesday, which is the third and final presidential debate. So Donald Trump tweeted on Friday night that Hillary Clinton and the DNC are trying to rig the debates. However, the fall debate schedule was determined 1 year ago by a nonpartisan commission on presidential debates. So, there are some rumors and conspiracies going around at the moment about, is Donald Trump gonna skip the debates, or, what's gonna happen, because he already skipped one of the GOP debates in January. So he argues that the debates are scheduled the same nights as NFL football. However, in 2012, this was also the case, but the debate still had high ratings. So, again, people are speculating, is this a sign that he might not go to all three of the debates? What's going on? Is he trying to schedule? Because if you reschedule every, all the debates every 4 years, it can become a headache. So, what's your opinion on this?
Well, first of all, I think Tom Brady is supposed to be coming back after his four-game suspension in and around October 3rd or 4th. What's the date of the first debate or the second debate there?
The first debate, September 26th.
Okay, but I think he's not coming until October. And
the second one is October 4th.
What day is that?
Tuesday.
Okay, well, Monday on the 3rd is when he comes back. So you wouldn't want to do anything on that day, except watch that game, of course. So.
But then you have to figure out your priorities. Is, football the priority, or is American politics the priority?
Tom Brady.
If you had to choose between the two.
Tom Brady's return to professional football is going to be the priority for everybody. So.
Not unless you don't live in New England.
Well. If you don't live in New England, you wish you did.
So then there's also, I guess, a major Jewish holiday is like the 10th or 11th,
okay.
which is the day or two after the debate on October 9th.
Okay.
So they're saying that could be a little bit tricky. So do you think Donald Trump is in the right to be saying, these debates are ridiculous, I want to change them all? Or is it just, a way for him to blow off the debates? Do you think they should just stay as there is? Because he says that it was Hillary Clinton and the DNC rigging it again. I don't think necessarily this is the truth, because a nonpartisan commission determined these in September, I believe, last year already.
Well, you know what I would do? It's such a non-issue that I would say, this is a thought, tell Donald, here's the schedule, you pick the day of the debate and be there. And that way.
But that's just not how he's rolling. So some people say maybe he's not going to go to the debate then. That's the big.
Well, I let him.
Which would be, I think, would that be one of the first times in American politics history that a presidential candidate hasn't gone to a debate?
I think so, and I think Donald is usually going to do the extraordinary rather than the ordinary, the normal. So he may well not do a debate simply because he's Donald and that's how he rolls. But I personally think that on something as unimportant on the political stage as the day of the debate, let him pick it. Then he'll be stuck having to go to it.
Yeah, see, I don't think this is a huge deal either. But should they compromise for him? Because they already set these dates a year ago, and that he makes the remark that, football is going to get in the way. But in 2012, there was football on the same day as the debates, yet the debates still got a high rating. Because, again, the debates are, on NBC, they're on Fox, they're on CNN, they're on all of them.
I know, but whether he debates today, tomorrow, or Monday, or Wednesday, or Friday,
you should just be ready any day.
Any day, absolutely.
If you're a true politician.
I wouldn't make that into a big issue. There are many more big issues.
Okay. So let's move on to our next story. So many Bernie Sanders supporters protested this past week during the DNC, yet most mainstream media has ignored to report on this. The recent WikiLeaks has ignited this fire among many of them, calling for reform within the Democratic Party. Some even wanting a Demexit, I can't pronounce it, play on words of the Brexit that happened in Europe.
In England, in Britain,
So some of them want a Demexit.
Really?
Or a revote or recount. So, and this is all due to voter suppression and media propaganda. So many supporters and delegates refused to vote for Hillary, saying her DN speech was all lies. What's your opinion?
Well, part of the American way of life is to disagree if you think a thing is not right. They have their right to disagree, but it's a little late. The two political candidates have been chosen. They're going to run. So get over it and decide who is the best qualified to be president.
I think a lot of Bernie people are actually voting for Jill Stein, though. But here's the thing. I was researching this. In order to be in one of the debates, you have to have a national polling average of at least 15 points. Gary Johnson's at 10 points. Jill Stein's at 5 points. So together they'd be at 15, but
they're not together. They're individual, and they're totally opposite, different in their viewpoints.
One's on the right, one's on the left.
Okay. I would say they haven't got enough votes. Don't muddy the waters anymore.
But I think a lot of this is their point. They're saying they're tired of the DNC and they want reform within the Democratic Party because they signed up to, have equal, fair elections. I don't think as many people would be upset because Hillary won. And, maybe it's because a lot of people don't like Hillary, thus the reason why they're voting for Jill Stein. But they're tired of the voter suppression when 2/3 of the polling stations are closed. And we have another story coming up about voter suppression. And in the emails, there was media propaganda and questioning his faith and all this sketchy stuff. And them laughing at the Bernie Sanders campaign and calling them annoying and silly. And they say the Democratic National Party, it should be a fair party during the primaries. It should not be biased. It should not take a side. It should be neutral when, it's not just Hillary running. Bernie Sanders is running too. He got 43% of the vote, and yet, they were so on Hillary. And here's the thing with, voter suppression. If it wasn't for the superdelegates, if there was more coverage on Bernie Sanders at the beginning, he would have a good chance. In the Iowa caucus at the beginning, he only lost by 0.5% or something, am I right? So, if he got more exposure, people knew what his message was, a lot of people are saying, well, he would be the nominee and not corrupt Hillary. And a lot of them are saying, Hillary Clinton's speech did contain much of Bernie Sanders' values, except on, war and some national security things, I believe. However, they're saying they don't believe it. It's all lies. She's saying this because this is what the people want to hear, and this is political gain for her, and she's very calculated. But they think, it's not the truth. She's lying again.
The only way to find out, because she's already been nominated and is going to stand for OVV party for the November election, is if she's in there and hold her feet to the fire, make her say what she promises she's going to. Let her fight for what she says she's going to fight for, and let's see what happens. You need to, through all of this mess, November is coming, and you've got to either vote for Hillary or for Donald. And that's simplified, but that's where it is.
But see, the thing is, those aren't just your two choices, though.
Well, if a guy's got 5% or whatever you say.
Jill Stein's polling at 5% right now. Gary Johnson's polling at 10%. Hillary Clinton in the latest average on the polls, which I've checked, she's ahead of Trump right now by 5 points.
Okay, she got the boost from the Democratic convention. Okay, that's how it goes. She'll never make it. And so the point is...
But the point is, they don't want to vote for Hillary. They don't want to vote for Trump. Instead of voting against someone, they actually want to vote for someone.
I get that. But whoever it is they want to vote for is not going to be.
But I think they want to send a message to the Democratic establishment, to the Republicans, that they're tired of all of this stuff, and that's the whole Demexit thing.
We get that. We know everybody's upset. This election is one of the most unpopular elections in my lifetime. But having gotten it, we have to figure out it is what it is. And you've got to go forward. You can't get your time for getting all worked up is over.
But the thing is, there were police, and I was watching TYT, the Young Turks. They were pushing a fence up on them, and there were peaceful protesters there. That's the Bernie people. They're peaceful, but there were other people there, and I don't think they were Bernie people, and they were causing drama. Yeah. But the fact is, mainstream media yet to really majorly cover this, except saw this one video about Fox News, and because of that, they said they covered it for like 10 seconds, and they said, well, I think they're all going to vote for Trump now. No, and I said this in the last video, if you're a true progressive, you're not going to vote for Trump. No. I get the anti-establishment, but based on policies, if you're a progressive, you're not going to vote for Trump. And I think that's why they're sort of moving over to Jill Stein. I think a lot of them still want Bernie. But here's the thing. I say here's the thing a lot. But a lot of people, some people, in defense of Hillary Clinton say, well, politicians make up their minds, they change their minds, they move all over the place with their policies, all the time. But, it seems like she's done this before, and she's done this again, and it seems only, advantageous when it seems she only does that when it's advantageous for her.
Politicians are politicians. Again, it's not black and white, it's gray.
But we deserve more than that.
We'll find somebody who is this great white.
We tried to. Bernie, we had Bernie, but the thing was, I think a lot, because of the rigged system, because of the media, because of voter suppression.
Well, we've come to where we are now. And the thing of it is, I get all what you're saying.
At the beginning, the super delegates, before anyone voted, the super delegates decided all go on Hillary Clinton. There were like 600 on Hillary Clinton, like 90 on Bernie Sanders.
Right, I get that.
And I don't think that was fair, because that gave the false impression to the American people, oh, Bernie's not going to win this thing. I might as well not vote or just go with Hillary or whatever. When, if Bernie had an actual chance and the media actually, said, oh, Bernie's running in this thing, he's right behind, neck and neck with Hillary, which he was in some cases, but they put him down, then I think more people would have gone out there, more people would have gone and voted for him.
Okay, but it's over now. The ship has sailed, Jacob.
But they're saying now in the future. For the next election, and that's why a lot of them are protesting.
Okay.
Because they want, voting reform. They want democratic reform.
Democratic reform meaning?
Within the party. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, however you pronounce her name, she already stepped down. Nobody liked her. But they feel they're, the DNC and the establishment and all of that stuff, it just felt like they were against all the Bernie people the whole time. And that's not a fair way to run an election.
No, but I don't think elections have ever been really, really fair.
But that's the problem. That's what they want to change. They want it to be fair. They want it to be neutral. Let the people do the work, not have big donors, not have corporations, not have the media, not have the establishment control everything. That's why people voted for Bernie Sanders and there was a big movement, because they're tired of that.
Okay, well, let's look at it this way. How do you change that? You can't change that by yelling and screaming.
They're not. But that's why they're doing it peacefully. There's people sitting. There's people singing good songs. They're being peaceful. Yet the media hasn't covered it. So they're not getting exposure even though they're doing it peacefully. There's tons of people doing it.
Okay. But by doing that, we have a system of laws. And how you do it is you you make up a proposal for a law. You present it to Congress and to the House of Representatives and to the president, whoever he is, and they work it all out until they can come to, hopefully, they can come to a meeting of the minds, and it's probably
well,
called
Hillary
election
Clinton says,
reform.
she'll pass an amendment or whatever to stop big corporations, but that's all where her campaign was funded by. That's how the DNC, that's how they paid for it all, was from the big donors. So you really trust and believe her that she's going to pass amendments and get rid of big corporations and big dollars and special interests and lobbyists paying for all these types of things when, they're the ones who gave her money. They're the ones who are, funding her, and she's probably going to give them tax cuts.
That's the Republicans do that more than the Democrats. I believe. I don't know the answers other than the laws have got to be created, passed, and implemented for all what you want. But one of the great things about America is that you can dissent. You can discuss these. There are countries, you and I could never sit down and have these conversations. They're off with their heads. But we really and truly, this is what
like
we
an
can
Alice
do.
in Wonderland. Off with the head!
No, like over in the Mideast. You can't.
There's still problems over there.
Oh, Lordy, yeah. Nobody would dare oppose a sitting dictator. And we don't have that in this country, thank God.
A lot of people, they're saying that if you think about it, the establishment is the dictator. They're the one dictating all of these elections. But right now, voting, it's just like a figure of the imagination. Like, yeah, voting is great, but I think the problem with people is the establishment is controlling it all, and they're tired of it.
I agree. But that's how it is, It's like, I'm 5'9". I want to be 5'2", but by God, I'm not going to be. And you have to come to that idea that it is how it is, and you've got to work with what you've got. What we've got is Donald.
But you're never going to win that way, then.
Oh, an awful lot of things have been won and changed. Are you kidding me? Oh, boy. I'm back in the day of civil rights.
I mean, people call Bernie Sanders a socialist, but Roosevelt, they called him a socialist, and he turned out to be one of our greatest presidents.
He certainly did. But he created Social Security and an awful lot of other do-gooder, Bernie Sanders type do-gooder things. There's nothing,
because, say, that was like 80 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So, we go in the forward 80 years ago, people are going to look back on us now and they're going to think we were crazy. Alright, guys, so we just took a quick break there, sorry, but let's move on to our next story. So, the U.S. 4th District Court of Appeals overturned the North Carolina voter ID law, which many people called controversial. So the law was originally passed, but the new ruling prohibits North Carolina from requiring photo ID from voters in upcoming elections. It now allows a week of early voting / pre-registration for 16 to 17-year-olds and ensures same-day registration and out-of-precinct voting will remain. So, let me see. So, legislature requested data on the use by race of different practices for enacting the law. The General Assembly enacted legislation that restricted registration / voting in 5 different ways, which all disproportionately affected African Americans. What do you think?
What state is this?
North Carolina. So basically, they had a law, they just passed a law for photo ID, and they requested data, of different voting techniques and methods by race, right? By race. And, they, let me read this. In 5 different ways, they banned, I believe, and it disproportionately affect African Americans because they did it by race. So, the more minorities that vote typically, you get a more democratic result, right? Because usually minorities are Democrats.
Right.
So Republicans pushed for laws like this because fewer people of minorities / younger age have IDs. So Republicans say that they're trying to prevent voter fraud. However, there is minimal evidence of this. So I question, what about the rigged machines? What about the elections? What about the party? What about the media? I mean, we're worried about voter fraud. You go out there and you pretend you're your grandmother and vote for your grandmother. Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of that fraud out there. I mean, I'm sure there's a little bit of that fraud, but I don't think it's a major problem. I mean, there are other problems that are rigging these elections more. And by passing this law, you're rigging the election.
I certainly think so.
So, some people can't afford IDs, right? Because you go to the DMV and it costs like $60.
Oh, really? Does it?
So, people who are, poor or unfortunate, they don't really have IDs. And you say, well, what if everybody who has a car, they don't have cars then because it's not,
right,
a priority to them.
Right.
So, I thought this was a very crazy and out of whack story.
I think it's a very, very peculiar. I don't understand it, but I think you're discriminating against the poor and the black and the people that maybe they can't fill out forms even. There are a lot of people, who aren't educated, can't read, and couldn't fill out forms. So it makes it almost impossible for a certain group of people to vote. And that's wrong. Whatever it takes to help people vote.
Because you want more people to vote. You
That's
want
right.
encourage more people to vote.
Well, the Democrats do. The
but
Republicans
my theory is the Republicans in North Carolina, and of course they had all the other problems, like the transgender bathroom problems and all that stuff. They're a pretty Republican state, I believe.
Yep.
So my theory is that they tried to do that. So whenever there was any type of elections, they would win. And this does include the November 8th, 2016 election. And I think they want Donald Trump to win because if Donald Trump doesn't win that state, he probably can't win the election.
So this is the state. Oh, they're playing the games.
How they're doing it is they want people of minorities and race, again, who are typically Democrats, they don't want them to vote.
They're making it hard.
So then Republicans can win. So, but the court overturned that law.
Good.
So,
good.
Because they enacted that law, but they just appealed it.
Good. Good. It's too bad when you think of how it's terrible that they make things so complicated. A very simple issue. You take your ballot and you check what you want and you put it in and that's it. But it's very sad to think that they're figuring all these
literal
ways.
Voter suppression.
This
is literal voter suppression.
Yeah.
There's other voter suppression, with the media and all, that. But this is literal voter suppression by not allowing people to vote. Okay, sorry about that again. We got cut off again. We have many interruptions going on right now. So, anything else you want to have to say about that story?
The more equality in voting that you can have, the better. That's
encourage voter turnout.
Yes. Now I have a quick question on that subject. Say you have a person who can't read.
Okay.
He goes to the polls. Somehow he's gotten himself registered. And
so say they're handicapped or disabled.
Right, but they have a right to their own opinion and to voice their own opinion by way of the polling booth. When they get there, you have all these things to read and check off. Can they have an assistance of somebody.
Well, they
to
can do a mail-in vote then. They can do it from their home and have someone help them at home, I believe.
At home. Oh, all right. That would be the way. But once they
So
get
I think,
there,
like, say you're in a nursing home.
right.
And you can't get out of the nursing home, then you can have a mail-in vote.
All right. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
All right. Our next story, this isn't really much of a story, but just, interesting thing to talk about. So the Powerball has hit $478 million.
Did we get a ticket?
No, we didn't. Which is the 8th largest prize in U.S. history. So what would you do with that money?
First of all, the government would take a big bite.
They take half of it.
Take it away. Okay, but now still you're left with a lot of money. What would I do? I would find a very good financial advisor, probably my son-in-law, and I would say to him, what would you suggest
advise?
With this money? First of all, I'd pay off any debts that I had, any credit cards, any of those things. I would make sure my family and my grandchildren were provided for education-wise and start-up-wise once they get out of college. And then I would donate.
Would you donate to the church?
Definitely to my church that needs so much work. Definitely would. I would try to make them whole. It's a small church. It needs a lot of work, but they do awfully good work in the community. They may not be able to pay their bills easily, but
they still give money out to people who need it in back to school time, and
we feed the homeless. Poor, we feed the homeless.
Food pantry.
Food pantry is very big. And I'll certainly contribute to.
And there's always stuff going on there.
Continue that. They need new ceilings. They need new floors. They need a lot. And I would certainly make sure they had
closing the deficit and stuff.
Exactly. I would make sure they did that. They needed that. And then I would look into a decent charity that I would trust. And I think I would have to know firsthand what that charity is and what it does, and
do a lot of research,
and how much of what I donate to them is actually going to get there.
Non-profit.
There's non-profits, but there's loopholes in the non-profits. There are, executive people have to get a big whopping salaries and all. I'd like to make sure the money, whether it be money or goods that get to those that need the goods, get them. That's basically what I would do.
All right. So our last two stories, they're more serious. Maybe not necessarily a lot of commentary about them, but I thought it would be important to mention them. So 16 people are dead after a hot air balloon catched on fire and crashed in Texas. So, according to sources, and the theory is that it struck power lines. There are no survivors, and most people died and it was the most people died in a hot air balloon crash in U.S. history. And in the last 20 years, I think Egypt, the most people who have died in a hot air balloon crash was like 19 people. I think the most people you can have, though, in one is 16, I believe. And there were 16 people in it, and they all died. So Ted Cruz commented about this with his condolences, and it's funny how politicians, they just use Twitter now, say their condolences, and they always say, Heidi and I, Kathy and I, like they say their wife and them. I mean, I don't know if that's necessary, I guess, but...
My question is, why is it necessary to go up in a hot air balloon?
Well, because they were having fun. Because this happened in Austin, to the San Antonio area in Texas. And that's, a big adventure area. People have fun there. So, there's hot air balloons. I mean, I don't think I would have enough, will or, courage to go in a hot air balloon. But, you know, some people like doing that stuff. It's fun for them.
There's a lot safer ways to have fun. I just think
They're
it's
still developing the story,
it's
though.
not worth even talking about. If people want to do goofy things, you know, too bad.
They probably signed some waivers, though.
Oh, of course they did. But there are much more important and worthwhile issues to be spending your time and your money on and your life than a hot air balloon.
So you don't have any sympathy for those
I have no
people that
sympathy for people.
went in the air balloon just trying to have some fun. You know, it's summertime, and then they die.
Well, if they didn't get in the hot air balloon, they wouldn't die. You know, I mean, you have to take responsibility for your actions at some point in time. And that's one perfect case. They make a big deal out of these tightrope walkers that walk between buildings. And I'm thinking, you know, for heaven's sakes.
I was watching that movie a couple days ago.
For heaven's sakes, you know. It's ridiculous to even talk about.
But, I mean, isn't that kind of like saying, well, you know, you got in a car accident, it's your fault?
No, because
you caught yourself on fire, that's your fault.
Well, it is, I suppose. But, I mean, you're going out...
You committed suicide, that's your fault.
You're deliberately doing something to put your life in the life of
They
other
weren't
people.
deliberately doing it, though, because,
you got in
these
the
are
balloon.
pretty rare accidents, I would think.
You got in the balloon. Nobody's holding a gun to your head. You free will, you got in a balloon. Something happened and you died. Well, if you didn't get in it, you wouldn't. Let's talk about something much more worthwhile than hot air balloons.
There's going to be some comments, though, talking about...
Good, I'm fine, but...
You're willing to battle them off?
Well, I mean, you know, your life is worth something, and why take these chances?
Okay. So our last story is a gunman shot and killed 3 people and injured 1 during a party in I can't pronounce it. Mukilteo, Washington. I should know how to pronounce that, but I can't. I apologize. So it's a 19-year-old. The 19-year-old suspect is in custody at the moment. And Governor Jay Inslee, again, I don't know how to pronounce that, commented with his condolences. So people were at their home in Washington having a party. A gunman gets in and he kills 3 people.
Terrible. Unfortunately, not uncommon, but terrible. When I get up in the morning,
there's always some type of break-in, an assault,
I
or murder.
turn on the TV and I say, I hope nothing terrible has happened during the night. But every now and then I'm proven wrong. And I think that's a terrible
too bad.
thing. And that could get you, he shot them?
Mm-hmm. He shot and killed 3 people and injured 1.
Yeah, okay. The Second Amendment gives you the right to bear arms. The Second Amendment was written.
But if crazy people like that didn't have the gun in their hands, we wouldn't have to worry about that.
That's right. When they wrote the Second Amendment, they were talking about muskets. Takes how long to load up a musket? And it was to defend your hearth and home. What's going on today in the world is AK-47s. You can level.
Semi-automatic, 100 shots a minute.
You can kill 100 people very easily. I don't think our founding fathers were thinking in terms or even could visualize.
And that was before we really had a solid military. That was like Minutemen style. The British are coming, get out of your house and help us now.
Or home invasion, because there wasn't a lot of rules and regulations back then, so you had the right to defend.
And I'm sure there were a lot of people who weren't rich and stuff.
But this idea that they developed, and I'm sure that our founding fathers didn't realize when they wrote that there were going to be this many kinds of guns that could kill so quickly and so, I don't know, impersonally. They were talking about defending. They were not talking about...
But if I'm going to play devil's advocate right now, what about the Republicans who say, well, they're criminals. they're gonna find a gun, they're gonna get a gun somehow. So when you take guns away from people, who, legally have it, then, you're leaving them defenseless.
I'm not
talking... But here's the thing. We're not saying we want to take all of your guns away. I get it if you want to have a shotgun, if you want to have a rifle gun under your bed to protect yourself. That's not the problem. The problem is people with mental disorders, people who are going out because they have problems with people, with semi-automatic weapons that can shoot 100, 200 people in a single minute. Mm-hmm. We want to get those guns out of people with those hands with better background checks. If you legally have it, if you don't have mental health problems, then, you're fine. As long as, it's not a gun that kills 200 people a minute and you're not a psychopath.
Okay, but you see, you watch on the news, and every time any of this happens, the first thing they say is he's had psychological problems. He's had mental health issues.
Exactly.
Where in the world did you get
if it's a white person? If it's a white person.
A license.
If it's not a white person, they're part of ISIS.
There's always going to be a boogeyman somewhere, Jacob. But the gun issue is, to me, it has to, you can't. The first thing a lawyer says when he goes to defend this guy is, he has mental health issues. So what? I really think that's a cop-out, and I think...
Like the white guy who shot up a Planned Parenthood, they said he's not mentally stable and ready for trial. We have to let him go to the mental hospital for a couple months before we can try him. If that person was black, if that person was Hispanic, if that person was anything other than white, they're immediately part of ISIS. They're immediately a target. We have to execute them now.
Mm-hmm. We're in a bad way. We're in a bad way with the guns, and I do think...
And I'm not standing up for them. I'm just saying we should have equality for all people, including criminals.
Right.
If you're a criminal, then let's treat all criminals the same way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Oh, no. It should be colorblind. They definitely should be colorblind. Unfortunately, they aren't. But
Ivanka says Donald is. Maybe she meant literally. That's what I was thinking at first. Okay, maybe literally then.
But I do seriously think that there needs to be tremendous amount more of gun control, and I don't know how you would govern it. I think you have to govern the gun shops and the gun shows, and I know you can buy them on the internet, but there's got to be some way to police it.
Well, you have background checks, you have regulation of guns, you stop the gun lobby influencing our politicians, because that's one of the major lobbyists.
I think so. I do. But to protect your home, I think if you want to have a gun, you got to have a gun. If that's your thing. Have a gun, but don't sell them out.
And here's my opinion with the NRA, too. You would think in the shootings of the police officers killing the black guy who was armed, but he legally had the gun, you would think the NRA would be all over that because the person had their right to bear arms, yet they were shot and killed because they were bearing arms, yet they had the right to legally, but they didn't.
No.
And the reason why they didn't was because he was black. So you're not so colorblind, are you?
No. The black man has a tough road ahead.
They're 5 times more likely to be.
And the jails are more. There's many more blacks in jails than white, apparently, according to the news broadcasts. That's
why people want prison reform.
Prison reform is very important. My also point is they're trying to legalize marijuana. Well, if they did that, what about the poor guys that are in jail for years, and women for years and years, because they were caught with marijuana?
That's why they want to let those people out. Because it's such a crazy thing.
Yeah, but by now they've suffered enough that they're probably pretty well damaged emotionally. They're damaged.
Well, because of the crime bill, with the 3 strikes, your life in prison. If they were caught a couple times, they're in prison for life now because of marijuana.
Yeah.
And people think, it's such a silly issue because it's just it's a reason just to criminalize minorities.
Well,
when you see that white alcoholic guy on the corner of the street, you just say, oh, that poor crazy guy. If it's a black man on the corner
Yeah.
smoking some marijuana,
Yeah.
call the cops. We got to get rid of him.
Yep, yep. It is. They need to make things a lot more just, a lot more fair, equal. You got to be colorblind, but not in this lifetime, I'm afraid. Well, you don't know. You never know. But anyway, have we discussed everything else that we need to
Yep,
discuss?
I think that's it. I had 6
All right.
stories. That was all I wanted to talk to you guys about. Thank you for talking with me again.
And
It's fun making these videos.
Have I given you grandmotherly advice as you grow older?
Well, you're the moderate liberal here.
I'm a moderate liberal, yeah, and I think people need to be moderate in certain issues, and I think, like the situation with guns, for example, and drugs, I think you have to be much more firm. But who knows? They're going to do what they're going to do. You have to vote for one person or another. So you know what I would do, Jacob?
You keep saying this over and over.
No.
You're very firm with it's one person or the other.
Isn't it true? Isn't it true? Write down.
When you go into the shampoo aisle, do you only go for if there's Pantene and there's L'Oreal because they're right next to each other? One's black, one's white. I know I'm making this a race thing again. Do you have to choose Pantene or L'Oreal when you see Garnier on the other side of the aisle, which, have you mind, is a green bottle? So, again, Jill Stein. I mean, some people like Garnier. You're pushing people down who like Garnier shampoo.
Let me tell you about shampoo. You have to try different ones because if you use the same one, by the
time... That's why people are so stuck up with the establishment. No. The establishment is the Pantene. The Pantene's ripping our hair out, though.
It has nothing to do with politics. If you use the same shampoo often enough, it doesn't do well for your hair. You got to switch.
Exactly. That's the status quo. We want to switch now.
Okay, listen to me. You've got to take a piece of paper, draw down the middle. Hillary, Trump. Write down what you think they stand for. And then stand back, think about it for a while, and which of these things you believe in is where you check. And then at the bottom, you see who are you more inclined to believe, go along with. Hoping that they live up to their promises, knowing they probably won't. But what's the edge one has over the other for you? And I mean, just those
I think they both suck. But if I had to pick, I would go with Hillary. But I don't want to. That's the thing. People don't want to. But they feel like they're being kind of forced to. So that's why they're voting for third-party candidates. Or they're not going to vote at all.
If you don't vote, you have no right to complain. This is what you're given. This is the situation you're given. So make your choice. And then don't say, but I'd rather have... You don't have that choice. This is what you got. And that's what you got.
Well, it's like, having the chocolate and vanilla ice cream thing.
Yeah.
What about the chocolate and vanilla and strawberry ice cream? It's like you're only focusing on the chocolate and vanilla container when there's a chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry container. You should know this. You buy that ice cream.
Yes, I do. It's because your sister loves it.
I like it too.
But strawberry doesn't get a vote.
Some people like strawberry, though. Some people like fruitiness.
I know they do.
A little different.
But if you go into a store and you're looking for chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, and they don't have it, you either walk out with no ice cream or you make the choice between chocolate and vanilla. It's logic, simple.
Or you could get a rain check and come back the next day.
Okay.
Are we done with this?
We're done.
All right. Thank you guys for watching episode 2 of News and Politics with Jacob. I will see you all in the next one. If you haven't already, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Check out my main channel, the New England Coupon Character, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.